counselor that you'll be working with at TCU. And I know we're just kind of right in y'all's backyard, but we always like to go through and have a nice presentation that enables us to kind of share a few things. When you're looking at this presentation, what you'll see on the screen in front of you is actually going to be a new QR code that we've developed for a microsite slash virtual brochure that we have now. So if you want to take out your phone, I'll give it a minute or two. You can scan it, and then that'll actually take you to that microsite. On that microsite, we'll have a variety of different information for you, from degree plans to class breakdowns to housing, dining, etc. Know that this is essentially our way of condensing down the information that you would normally have to look for across multiple websites into one, and also just being sure that you're able to get the answers to your questions. Before I move into the actual presentation itself, Victoria, how long do we have?
You've got till 4, but you're kind of my last thing of the day, so.
Okay, cool. I don't anticipate it taking till 4, so we should have time for questions if there's any, so that works. Awesome. So now one thing we love about TCU is that we provide what we call a personal educational experience. So it's a great combination of three things. You have a large school spirit mixed with a medium school environment that's easily crossable from one side to the other for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then on top of that, small personalized class sizes. So we're kind of this magic mixture of those three main things that students find they love across different universities. To focus specifically first and foremost on the class size, know that our average class size is going to be about 27 students, but I always like to tell incoming students that that's actually more so going to be your intro core as well as your freshman major courses. Being a student myself, and same with Miss Post, know that our classes will range from anywhere from 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 students. Our two biggest classes on campus are actually going to be 100 students. That's going to be Intro to Biology and Intro to Chemistry, but we break down into smaller lab sizes to make up for that. Outside of that, know again that most classes will actually end up capping out at 20 students. So there's a really good chance that you'll only be in a class with 20 students max to begin with. One thing we also like to focus on is the teacher to scholar model at TCU. So our professors are there to make sure that you're getting the educational attention that you deserve. So one way that they go about doing that is by having open office hours 2 times a week, where you can actually pop in, go through, say hi, talk to them about life, ask them questions about a test or a project or anything else along those lines. We find that this really helps build that one-on-one engagement with students and teachers and really helps facilitate those bonds. No, one thing that I loved about TCU is that a lot of my professors started off as just that, professors, and then they moved on to being mentors and then became friends. So now I can go to lunch with them. I'll text them or call them about specific things. I'll pop into the school, say hi every now and then. I invited a few of them to my wedding a few years ago. So it's great because you find that it's very rare that you'll be able to find that in a collegiate environment. And then on the note of classes as well, we always like to talk about a religious requirement. So no, a lot of students always ask what the C in TCU stands for. With us being Texas Christian University, students want to know how big is that going to be and the collegiate experience. And we always tell students that we only require one religious course to be taken on campus. We have 60 different faiths represented on campus, with Catholicism and Christianity being our two biggest tenets, all the way to Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism. And we have 25 student organizations on campus that help support and build spiritual life for those students. So if they're wanting to go and do holiday celebrations or worship services or anything else along those lines, that's where that really predominantly comes in. Outside of that, on that one religious course requirement, that can be anything that you want it to be, from a verse study course, a Bible study course, to history of the Bible, to classes like Jesus and film and other critically thinking based courses. We want to make sure that our students, regardless of their tenant, are able to comfortably take a class on campus and fulfill that requirement. And if they want to indulge in that spiritual life and growth, you'll be able to in spades on campus. But if that's not something you're looking for, that's perfectly fine as well. Again, kind of touching on that big school spirit, Know that we are the smallest school in the Big 12. We're a small to mid-sized university sitting at about 9,500 undergraduate students, but we are definitely not lacking in spirit. One thing we do here on campus is actually make all of our home athletic events free for students. So if you're wanting to go to football, basketball, rifle, track, soccer, equestrian, or anything else along those lines, you're more than welcome to. All you have to do is show up, swipe your student ID, and you're good to go. On that end, we also like to encourage students to experiment and try out different things. So if you've never been to a basketball game or if you've never been to a soccer game collegiately, by all means show up because there's no student passes, no student ticket prices, or anything else along those lines to prevent you from doing that. No obligation. So even if you go to that football game and it's halftime and it's 110 degrees outside, by all means you don't have to stay because you didn't pay $250 to be there. So we want to make sure that you have that opportunity, but we also find that it helps build that engagement across campus and the community. So when you have other people from Fort Worth or even the greater DFW area coming in, tailgating, wearing purple, saying "Go Frogs," you have the band coming from one side of campus to the other. Our football team going through Frog Alley. It's great because it builds that environment and really connects us again to the city. So we really like to encourage students to partake in that as well. On that end, we also like to talk about how places throughout campus are going to be more than just serving something at face value. So, one example I always like to use is Amon G. Carter Stadium. And while you would think about it as a football stadium, what you'll actually see on the screen in front of you is our students going through our first year experience known as Frog Camp on Amon G. Carter Stadium's turf. And they're actually going through talking about their fears, their anxieties about first year, meeting with each other, forming connections, networking, and really getting to form a community. That's something we'll do at the beginning. And another example that I always use at the end for Amon G. Carter Stadium is going to be senior sunrise. So it's a great tradition that we have where the last day of class of your senior year, your classmates will get together and you can join them at 6 in the morning and you actually watch the sun rise on the last day of school. So it's this wonderful reflection moment where you can look back at your collegiate experience, have this wonderful inspirational kind of experience and really connect again with your classmates for one final time. And so all of the buildings on campus are going to have multiple uses, and that's just one example I really like to use. No, academically, we want to provide you with endless opportunities. So we actually have 115 majors, and we're constantly growing on that end as well. Just to give you a little bit of example, no, we always kind of just blaze through these and kind of hit on some high points, starting with the Neely School of Business. So Neely School is actually going to be our most applied to and our second most competitive school as a whole. And it's great because Neely's ranked in the top 20s in the nation for their business program. With that being said, when you come in, you will be a pre-business major, so everyone starts on the same playing field. Everyone takes the same intro courses, and then junior year, you'll actually move into the business school proper and focus on whatever it is you're wanting to do: accounting, finance, marketing, supply chain management, anything along those lines. Next, we have the Addison College of Liberal Arts, which houses over 80 different majors, including a lot of what you would find to be your core classes like your Englishes, your social studies, your foreign languages, etc. Know as well, the biggest program we're highlighting moving forward is a new joint law program with Texas A&M University. So if you're wanting to go into law and that's your passion, know TCU is going to be a great place to do it moving forward because we'll have that accelerated program where it's 6 years, 2 degrees, 3 years with us, 3 years with Texas A&M at their law school, also in downtown Fort Worth, and then you'll be good to go and ready to take your bar certification exam. So it's something that our students have been asking for that we really wanted to have, and we found a great partner in Texas A&M who has one of the best law schools in the country as well. Next, we have the College of Science and Engineering. We always talk about engineering, of which we have mechanical and electrical, and then also our pre-health track. So if you're wanting to go into veterinary, medical studies, orthodontistry, or anything else along those lines, know you'll opt into our pre-health track. So you'll actually come in for your first 2 years as a science major of any type: biology, chemistry, biochemistry, neuroscience, etc., and then opt into the program your junior year. This actually opens you up to one-on-one advising for 2 years. So we'll help you find medical schools, apply to medical schools, do essays, resumes, interviews, and everything else you need to be successful. Our med school acceptance rate is 88%, so it's twice the national average. And we find that having that one-on-one advising is really great in regards to getting you to where you want to go. But if you're wanting to stay on the Horned Frog Network, now we have our own medical school as well, also just 10 minutes down the street. So you're still staying in the Horned Frog community. We had 65 students come in for our inaugural class last year. We welcomed another 85 this year, and we're always looking at growing that number moving forward. So again, if medical school is something that you're looking at, but you want to stay with us now, that's a possibility as well. As far as other medical programs, those are going to reside in our Harris College of Nursing and Health Sciences. So, nursing is first and foremost our most competitive program. We'll have an incoming freshman class of about 150 students, even though we'll have about 2 to 3,000 apply yearly. So, no, with nursing, we talk about a handful of things. Specifically, it's a 4 year fully stacked program. So, you're not going to be coming in and doing pre nursing at all. You're going to be coming in as a nursing major and starting doing health courses, getting that work experience, and being placed and gearing towards clinicals your first 2 years. And then in your last 2 years, you'll actually be working in hospitals, doing clinical hours, and everything else you need to be successful on that end. With nursing, we always like to tell students that they're looking for perspectives that are well engaged both in and out of school, have a passion for nursing, are able to demonstrate that passion, whether that's through volunteer work, whether that's through courses at school, whether that's through certifications like CPR or CNA, or anything else that they're able to do, as well as taking high level courses in your math and your science. So AP, IB, dual credit honors. All of those things will really help put you ahead of the game in regards to nursing, and there's a handful of other things we can talk about, and I always encourage y'all to follow up with me. My contact information will be at the end of the presentation if you're interested in nursing and wanting to know a little bit more about that. Outside of that, we have a number of other health sciences from speech language pathology, rehabilitation for the deaf and hard of hearing, kinesiology, and a new sports training track that we just opened up that's also an accelerated degree option. So 5 years, 2 degrees, and we're working on partnerships with the Dallas Cowboys, the Stars, and the Mavericks. Next, we have the Bob Schieffer College of Communication. So this was my alma mater. I was a film and journalism double major, and one thing about Bob Schieffer that I absolutely love is that you will get so much experience and so much to show for your time there. Everything we do is very student geared and working towards getting you that practical experience. So whether you're wanting to do film or journalism or our strategic communications, if you're interested in ad PR work or communication studies, or even my favorite sports broadcasting, which is very unique to TCU. No, sports broadcasting is a unique cohort of 30 students, and they actually run all the games that you see. We recently signed a deal with ESPN Plus. So if you're wanting to work at ESPN or Longhorn Network or anything like that in your future, definitely think about TCU because you'll get that experience over 3 years actually running the games yourself and everything like that. And it's really easy to move on to a job from there. In the same vein of hiring and educational rates, know that our College of Education is great in regards to getting hired. We have a 99% hiring rate if you're wanting to go into teaching, and TCU is the place to do it. We have a variety of different degree plans and majors ranging from pre-education all the way up to higher education, and we have again a number of degree plans that include your bachelor's and your master's, as well as your bachelor's, master's, and teacher certificate in 5 years. So if teaching is your passion, definitely think about us. One thing we find as well is that not only will you be able to get work experience in Fort Worth ISD and Dallas ISD and Arlington ISD, which are some of the highest paid school districts in the country, but you'll also be able to work and volunteer at 2 lab schools on campus. They're very special. They're for students with Down syndrome, autism, and other learning disabilities. So that really, again, puts you ahead of the game in regards to education. With the College of Fine Arts, we always like to break it down into performing arts, of which we have dance, theater, and music. Those do require an on-campus audition, though we are doing virtual auditions this year, but we'll also give you scholarship consideration for it as well if you're accepted into those programs. And then our studio art, so painting, sculpting, art history, photography, and our design programs, graphic, fashion, studio design. We did recently build a brand new design building that houses those 3 programs with state-of-the-art labs and technology. So if you're interested in any of those, definitely, again, think about TCU as your possible school of choice. And on that end as well, we are now offering scholarship consideration for graphic design students too. And then finally, our School of Interdisciplinary Studies. So this is actually a really cool school that's pretty brand new. It's about 3 or 4 years old now, and it houses 4 very specific majors: our comparative race and ethnic studies, our women and gender studies, our ranch management option, which is a combination of agricultural studies, business, as well as when you're going through and focusing on pre-veterinarial. And then we have our new major called interdisciplinary inquiry. So interdisciplinary inquiry is essentially going to be a build your own major program moving forward, where you get to pick and choose and create a customized degree plan with courses from all 115 majors. So if there's something that you really want to focus in on in your major, or if there's something that you want to combine and create a new major track through, we're now able to give you that option. The reason we do this is because TCU is always looking for new majors, trying to see what students want, what we can make a possibility, and again, give you those endless opportunities for your academics. And this is our way of kind of figuring that out. As well, if you want to be a horned frog, we don't want to limit your academics and say that you can't major in this or you can't do that. So now with interdisciplinary inquiry, that's definitely an option. No, the biggest takeaway from this is that we're constantly listening to our students and trying to do the best we can academically. Students wanted a law program, we have that. Students wanted a medical school, we have that. Students wanted a build your own major option, we have that now too. So everything we do on the academic end is going to be geared towards servicing you in the best way that we can. But we also want to be a true social space for you. So, no, we have a variety of different things that engage in the social life on campus because we know your social life is just as important as your academic life. For example, we're ranked number 3 for student engagement according to the Wall Street Journal, and we have over 250 different clubs and organizations on campus. You'll have everything from every intramural sport you can think of, all the way to Disney Club, knitting club, sailing club, foreign language clubs, etc. One thing we also do is have our student activities budget that's dedicated towards making sure there's something going on campus every single day, whether that's a dance party, a prom, a Harry Potter day, a movie night, or any sorts of special guest speakers like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaq, Bill Nye the Science Guy, comedians like Ken Jeong, Kevin Thompson, Kevin Hart, other SNL alums, or even musical guests like Andy Grammer, Blake Shelton, Little Big Town, Jason Derulo, and Jesse McCartney, just to name a few. All of that's going to be free to you as a student. So same with athletic events, you just show up, swipe your student ID, and you're good to go. We find that, again, this really just makes it fun for you and gives you something to do outside of studying out of a book. So we want to make sure that you have a good social life. I myself partake in a lot, or partook in a lot of different clubs, organizations, special events. I went to a lot of different concerts on campus, sporting events. So there's a lot of great things to do, and it's really just catered specifically to your interests. As far as dining halls, we always like to talk about our two. So, no, we have two specifically on campus, our Brown Lupton University Union, which houses our Market Square, which is essentially a rotating buffet style food option, as well as our Union Grounds coffee shop, as well as a Chick-fil-A. And then we'll have our KFC, our King Family Commons, which houses 6 kind of more restaurant style dining options that you can go and sit down or go and get food from. We also know at TCU that experience matters a ton because you're going to college to be able to go and get a job afterwards. So we want to make sure that you're well taken care of on that front as well. So no, 85% of our students are going to be employed or in grad school within 3 months of graduation, and that number jumps up to 95% once you're a year out. On top of that, numbers are going to be even higher depending on your actual course of study. So I already mentioned teaching earlier at 99%, nursing 98%, business 96, communications 92%, just to name a few. So we really want to make sure that you're well taken care of. But one thing we also do is make sure that you have plenty of opportunities for internships. So about 80% of our students are going to have an internship at some point in their 4 years as well. And we actually handle internships in 3 different ways, starting with your major, where we'll give you credit hours as well as scholarships if you're doing an unpaid internship, to going through our Career Services Center, which is ranked number third and ranked third in the nation. Um, and their whole job is to make sure that you have a job, and they'll help you with resumes, with interviews, with everything that you need to be successful on that end. And then as well as as well our career fair, which we'll have in the fall and spring of every year. With that, we'll have over 200 different businesses and organizations send representatives to our recreational center, set up in what we would consider to be like a college fair style, where you'll actually be able to go talk to them, hand out business cards, have them look over your resume, get professional headshots done, and actually ask the people that could be your potential employers, what are you looking for in an employee and how can I be that person? So again, those three steps: major, our career services center, and then our career fair, to really make sure that you're engaged and have opportunities to land those internships. We also like to talk about the dorms on campus because we know you're going to be living there. You are required to live on campus for at least 2 years, your freshman and sophomore year. But because y'all are in a 30-mile radius, we can talk about commuting as well. So, no, that might be an option if that's the difference between you going to TCU or you going to another school, with the change in housing, et cetera, or the deduction in housing costs. That's definitely something we want to take into consideration as well. So definitely feel free to follow up on that end if you are thinking about commuting. On top of that, no, our dorms are ranked third in the nation because they're absolutely incredible. We want to make sure that you have the best living spaces possible. So whether that's making sure you have new carpet and furniture, or making sure all of our dorms and buildings on campus are renovated or rebuilt within 10 years. We've also built 4 new dorms on campus just in the last 2 years alone. So we really want to make sure that, again, you have a great living space because you're going to be spending so much time there. That's ultimately going to be where you're coming back home to. So we want to make sure it feels like home. On top of that, no, one thing that I always like to talk about is our customizable furniture. It's something that we're just now going through and putting into the dorms that we started doing last year. And it's great. And you'll actually see in that top left corner a little bit of it where you can move things around, rotate them, combine them. So now you're able to create computer desks, you're able to create shelves and wardrobes, you're able to create split desks if that's something that you're wanting to do. We want it to make it, again, fit and feel your own customized style and personal interest to make sure that you're able to be happy with where you live. On top of that note, every dorm on campus is going to have its own community. So they're all focused on different things, whether that's the extroverted dorms that are more focused on social events, where you'll have people talking up until 3 o'clock in the morning in the lobby, or whether that's like Colby, which is our all girls dorm, or whether that's our Waits, which is our dorm for musical students because they have practice rooms in the basement and it's right across from our music school, or whether that's other dorms that are focused on community service and community engagement. Again, we really want to make sure that you find a place that fits your own personality and interest. On the admission side of things, there's 4 dates that we need you to pay attention to. So no, August 1st of your senior year is going to be when your application opens up specifically. So August 1st now this year, if you're a senior, your application's already open up. If you're a junior, it'll be next year. November 1st is going to be our first deadline. So that's going to be for our early action and early decision. I always like to equate early action, essentially, that's non binding and that's you taking action to get your stuff in early. So there's no contract, no anything like that. It's essentially you putting your stuff in early, finding out if you're accepted early, etc. With early decision, that is binding. So that's you, your family, and your counselor signing a contract, and you're making the decision to attend TCU early. So if you do get accepted under that, you are required to attend TCU. Outside of that, we have our February 1st regular decision deadline, which is going to be essentially an extra deadline for students that weren't able to get things in by November 1st. And then May 1st is going to be our candidate reply date. With that being said, we always encourage students to try and apply early if possible, especially if you're looking at business, if you're looking at nursing, pre-health, or anything else that we would consider to be a competitive major. November 1st is always going to be the best deadline, and we'll also pull a large majority of our students from that November 1st deadline to begin with. So definitely keep that in mind when you're making your applications to different schools. We are a little bit different from other institutions in that other schools will use tiered admissions, or essentially your rank, your GPA, and your test scores, you're in or you're out. With us, we do look at things like your rank, your GPA, and your test scores, but we also look at other academic factors like your strength of curriculum. Are you taking high level courses? Again, AP, IB honors, dual credit. Are you doing well in math if you're wanting to go into business? Are you doing well in science if math if you're wanting to go into engineering? So just things to keep in mind when you're applying as well. We'll also look at your co-curriculars. Are you engaged both in and out of campus? Are you in band, theater, choir, sports, government club? Are you part of any church service, community service? Do you babysit? Do you walk your neighbor's dog every week? Just different things to keep in mind as well in the co-curricular end, as well as your essay, as well as your teacher and counselor recommendations. We do require that the teacher recommendation be from an academic field, so math, science, English, social studies, but we'll gladly take any extra recommendations from teachers in elective fields as well. And then we'll also take recommendations from people outside of that. So if you have a pastor or a supervisor or a family friend that wants to send us something, by all means, we'll gladly take that on top of that. Know that we are test optional this year, so that's going to help out a lot in regards to admissions, but we're also test optional in regards to scholarships, which we'll get to in just a second. So no, in an average year, our testing ranges would be 26 to 31 ACT, 1150 to 1340 SAT, and a 3.5 unweighted GPA. But again, test optional. So if testing has been something that you're scared of, know that that's definitely something to take into consideration. I always tell students that we cannot see your test scores unless you tell us that you want us to take them into consideration. So even if we get them through your parents or your counselor or your school, we won't be able to see them. They're blacked out on our end. So unless you go through and click yes, take them into consideration on the application, or you send an email afterwards that says, hey, I'd like for them to go into consideration, again, we can't look at that. So on the scholarship end, we have to first talk about tuition. So no, we are currently sitting at about $66,000 cost of attendance. So it's going to be everything you need from your tuition, your books, your dining hall, your room and board, etc. So being an expensive institution, we want to make sure that we're trying to even the playing field as much as possible by giving you as much aid as possible on that end as well. So we'll start by first having our merit-based scholarships. Those are going to range from $12,000 all the way up to full tuition. If you get a merit-based scholarship, that's going to be for all 4 years. So know that we aren't going to take away any money from that. We're not going to pull a fast one on you and give it to you for 2 or 3 years only. You've earned that money, so you'll have it for all 4 years. Know with that, again, in an average year, or if you're considering sending in your test scores, the test scores are going to be at about a 1300 SAT, a 30 ACT, and or a 3.7 unweighted GPA. However, being test optional, know that if you don't send in your test scores, we'll probably lean more heavily into that GPA, as well as a few other factors we've developed on our scholarship matrix to kind of make up for that. One thing too to know about TCU is that we just recently moved over $65 million in money towards our financial aid department. So now we'll be able to be a little bit more competitive. We understand families have been hit hard by COVID-19, and we want to make sure that we're still a potential school of choice for a lot of you. Excuse me, we're a potential school of choice for a lot of you. So we want to make sure that we're being competitive, scholarship wise, and we're giving you more money than we've ever dealt with before. So we fully anticipate giving out a lot of scholarships meritly. Now, the other two things that we'll look at are going to be the FAFSA TASFA, which is our federal/state aid, as well as the CSS profile. So if you're wanting financial aid from TCU, you are required to do the FAFSA TASFA and the CSS profile. The FAFSA TASFA is essentially going to be governmental aid, so that's looking at your tax returns and then seeing how much you qualify for on that end. And the CSS profile is something that's unique to private schools. So that's our way of looking through and making sure that if the FAFSA says they're not eligible for anything, the CSS profile almost always finds something that you're eligible for regardless. The CSS profile will give us additional grants and scholarships from TCU to you, so no loans on that end. And the FAFSA task will usually be grants and loans. So keep that in mind and work with your college advisor when you're going through that process. No, for us, applications open up for FAFSA, TASA, and CSS October 1st, and we really encourage students to get things in by our priority financial aid deadline of February 1st. But even more so, and I'm sure Ms. Post will agree, I highly, highly encourage y'all to get your financial aid in before December. because once holidays hit, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, it's a whirlwind and there's so much going on and it's easy to get lost in that. So the sooner you get your stuff in, preferably October, the faster you'll actually hear back from us and other schools on your financial aid packages, which gives us a little bit more time to work with you and see if we can find any additional aid. So with that, I'll go ahead and leave my contact information up on the screen for a few minutes and then let it open the floor up to any questions. If you want to try and type them in the chat box, if you want to just ask them, Ms. Post, if there's anything that you want to ask from the college advising perspective that I didn't cover or talk about, we have pretty good ample amount of time, so we'll be able to go through that.
Can you touch on the STEM scholarship real fast?
Yes. Are y'all a STEM scholar school?
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. So I am actually now on the committee for STEM scholars. With that, know that STEM scholars is essentially going to be a unique scholarship. Let me go ahead and pull up the information so I'm saying it right. Um, 1 second, STEM scholars. Okay. So again, first year on the committee, and we've just recently moved around things, so I want to make sure that we're well taken care of. So in 2018, we actually had the STEM scholarship program for students that are underrepresented going into science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. So know with that, it's going to be a full cost of attendance scholarship for 4 years. So a 4-year full ride to TCU. And it's only going to be for, again, underrepresented and students in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, math. And it's only going to be for certain counties. So I believe it's an 18 county radius around us. So you're not having to compete with other students from across the nation or even across the state. Really, it's just the immediate DFW area, as well as a few areas outside of that. No, in regards to that, if you do get accepted to STEM, you are required to do a summer bridge program called Scientific Thinking that we find just really helps get you in mind for your STEM program, as well as uh, opportunities that pop up for undergraduate research. If you're wanting to go into anything STEM, this is a great opportunity, and you're automatically applied, as far as I know, through the application itself. And I'm looking at that just right now. You'll also have access to a number of academic workshops, personal tutoring. We'll have weekly advising meetings to make sure you're just staying on top of things, as well as unique locked in networking opportunities on that end. And we'll do stuff like pay for study abroad and all of that. So to be eligible, you do have to attend a high school within 16 counties of DFW. So we have all the counties and we can tell you, but again, y'all being in Arlington, that's perfectly fine as well. Y'all are counted in that. And you do have to be underrepresented in the STEM field and at TCU. So with that, essentially students of color, specifically female students of color, I think is usually one of the biggest things that we look at in regards to that. Know as well, you are going to have to apply into a number of different programs. So for TCU to be eligible for the STEM Scholar program, you have to apply into applied geoscience, astronomy, biochemistry, biology, business information systems, chemistry, combined science, computer information technology, computer science, educational studies, engineering, environmental science, geology, mathematics, movement science, neuroscience, nutrition, physics, psychology, or secondary education. So if you're wanting to go into any of those fields, know that STEM Scholars will be an opportunity for you. In regards to the application requirements, really it's not too bad. You have to do the application itself, as well as 2 short answer essays of about 250 words, and those can be done through the MyTCU portal, as well as a 1-minute video that you send to us explaining why you would be a STEM scholar or what STEM means to you. So that's really all there is to it, and we'll go through. We'll usually have maybe about 60 or 70 students that are qualified for it, and then we'll usually have anywhere from 15 to 20 that we'll actually give the scholarship to. So it is a competitive program, but again, a 4-year full ride opportunity that you can take advantage of. Does that help?
Yes, beautiful.
Okay, perfect. One thing for STEM scholars too, if you're wanting to do STEM scholars, you do have to do the November 1st deadline. There's no kind of way around that. And then the STEM scholarship application is going to be due at the end of November, which again is through your My TCU portal.